In this episode, we're going to talk about why some supplement brands hit 5, 6, even 7% conversion rates, while their competitors struggle to break 2% using the exact same traffic sources, the exact same ad platforms, sometimes even selling nearly identical products. And here's what's wild. It's usually not the copy. It's not the offer. It's not even the creative. It's belief. More specifically, it's whether your positioning aligns with or fights against what your market already believes to be true. Most supplement brands are burning cash trying to change beliefs when they should be working with them. And by the end of this episode, you're going to understand exactly how to tell the difference and what to do about it. Quick thing before we get going, if you're a supplement brand founder and you're stuck, I built something for you. It's called the Supplement Business Accelerator. Every Thursday, we jump on a live call. You bring your problems, landing pages, ad creative, whatever you're stuck on, and I solve them with you in real time. Plus, you get over 10 hours of training on offer structure, sales copy, upsells, the whole system, and much more. My private clients pay thousands per month for this level of help. You get it for $97 per month. Go to creativethirst.com/group or click the link in the show notes to learn more. Again, that's creativethirst.com/group. All right, let's get back to it. Welcome to Health Business Mastery, the Creative Thirst podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Hewitt. So here's where this usually starts for most supplement founders and marketing teams. You've got a product. Maybe it's a really good product. The formulation is solid. The science checks out. You've got third-party testing. You've done everything right on the product development side. You build out your landing page. You write copy that explains the mechanism of action. You cite studies. You talk about bioavailability and absorption rates and all the things that should matter. You launch ads. The click-through rates are decent. People are interested enough to click. They land on your page, and then nothing. 2% conversion rate, maybe 3% if you're lucky. So you do what everyone does. You test new headlines. You try different hooks in your ads. You bring in a conversion rate optimization consultant who moves buttons around and changes the color of your call to action. And maybe you squeeze out another 0.5%. But you're still nowhere close to what you need to make the economics work at scale. Meanwhile, there's another brand in your category. Their product isn't better than yours. Their copy honestly isn't even that good, but they're converting at 5 or 6% and scaling profitably. What's happening? They're aligned with belief. You're fighting it. And here's the thing about belief that makes it different from desire or hope or trust. The other 3 forces in my framework. Belief is the deepest one. It's the hardest one to see because it operates almost entirely beneath conscious awareness. Your prospect doesn't wake up in the morning and think, let me examine my belief systems about health and healing today. They just have these beliefs. They've built them up over years, maybe decades. And those beliefs act like a filter for everything else you're trying to say. When your marketing aligns with existing beliefs, everything else you do works better. Your desire amplification lands harder. Your unique mechanism feels more credible. Your trust building happens faster. But when you're fighting beliefs, even accidentally, it doesn't matter how good your copy is. You're pushing a boulder uphill. Let me give you a concrete example of what I mean. Let's say you're selling a turmeric supplement and your positioning is all about the curcumin content and the bioavailability technology and the clinical studies showing reduced inflammation markers. All true, all scientifically valid. But here's what a lot of the market already believes about turmeric. They believe it's a natural anti-inflammatory. They believe it's been used in Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years. They believe that natural solutions from ancient traditions are inherently safer and more aligned with how the body works than synthetic pharmaceuticals. Now, if your positioning leads with bioavailability technology and pharmaceutical grade extraction processes, you're not necessarily wrong, but you might be activating a belief conflict. Part of their brain hears pharmaceutical grade and thinks, wait, I thought this was supposed to be natural. I thought that was the whole point. You've created friction. Not because you said anything false, but because you bumped up against an existing belief about what makes turmeric valuable in the first place. The brand that's converting at 6%, they're probably leading with the ancient wisdom angle. They're talking about traditional use. They're positioning the science as validation of what cultures have known for centuries, not as the primary reason to believe. Same product, different belief alignment, totally different conversion rates. And this is where most supplement marketers get tripped up, because we're taught to lead with the science. We're taught that more proof equals more persuasion. And in some markets with some audiences at certain sophistication levels, that's true. But belief doesn't care about proof the way you think it does. Belief is emotional. It's tied to identity. It's tied to how someone sees themselves and how they think the world works. And when you try to change a deep belief, even if you have a mountain of evidence, you're not doing marketing anymore. You're doing education. And education is expensive and slow. And most of the time, it doesn't convert fast enough to make the economics work. So let's talk about how belief actually operates as a force in supplement buying psychology. In my framework, I talk about belief as both a pushing force and a pulling force. And it's one of only two forces that does this. Trust is the other one. As a pushing force, belief works like this. Your prospect wants to believe there's a solution to their problem. They want to believe that something out there can help them. That's the push. That's what moves them toward considering solutions in the first place. But belief is also a pulling force. And this is the part that most marketers miss. The pulling force of belief is all the existing beliefs they already hold. Beliefs about themselves, beliefs about health, beliefs about what works and what doesn't. If they believe they're not the kind of person who goes to the gym, no amount of marketing for a pre-workout supplement is going to change that, because the belief is pulling them back toward their current reality. If they believe that prescription medications are dangerous and natural solutions are always better, that belief is going to pull them toward supplements and away from pharmaceutical approaches. You can work with that pull. But if your supplement positioning sounds too pharmaceutical, too clinical, too much like the thing they're trying to avoid, now you've got a problem. You're fighting the pull. And here's what makes this so tricky in the supplement space specifically. Supplements sit in this weird middle ground between functional products and emotional products, between medicine and food, between science and nature. And different segments of your market have different beliefs about where on that spectrum supplements should sit. Some people want supplements that feel like medicine. They want the clinical trials. They want it to feel serious and pharmaceutical grade because that makes them believe it's going to work. Other people want supplements that feel natural and holistic. They want it to feel like food, not drugs. They want minimal processing. They want it to feel gentle and safe because that aligns with their beliefs about how healing should work. Same category, completely different belief systems. And if you're trying to sell to both with the same positioning, you're probably not selling effectively to either. This is why market research matters so much, not just demographic research, belief research. You need to know what your market already believes about health, about their problem, about solutions, about themselves. Because you're not going to change those beliefs. Not in the span of a sales page, not in a video ad, not even in a nurture sequence. What you can do is align with them or find the segment of the market where your natural positioning already aligns and go deep with them. Let me walk you through how beliefs show up at 3 different levels. The first level is what I call philosophical beliefs. These are beliefs about health and healing in general, not specific to your product or even your category, but broad worldview stuff. Do they believe the body can heal itself if given the right support? Do they believe that modern medicine is advanced and trustworthy? Do they believe that natural is always better? Or do they believe that science improves on nature? These philosophical beliefs shape everything downstream. The second level is category beliefs. These are beliefs specific to the type of solution you're offering. Let's say you're selling a probiotic. What does your market believe about gut health? Do they believe that gut health affects everything, or do they see it as just a digestion thing? Do they believe that all probiotics are basically the same, or do they believe that strains matter? Do they believe that fermented foods are better than supplements, or do they believe supplements are more concentrated and effective? These category level beliefs determine how receptive they are to your specific approach. And then the third level is identity beliefs. These are beliefs about themselves. Do they believe there's someone who takes care of their health proactively, or do they believe they only deal with problems when they become urgent? Do they believe they're the type of person who reads labels and researches ingredients, or do they believe they just want something that works without having to think about it? Do they believe they have good intuition about what their body needs, or do they believe they need expert guidance? Identity beliefs are the deepest and the hardest to shift. And when your positioning conflicts with someone's identity belief, the sale is essentially impossible. Here's an example of how this plays out in the real world. I worked with a supplement brand that was selling a cognitive enhancement formula, nootropics, brain health, focus, memory, mental clarity, all that. Their initial positioning was very biohacker, very optimization focused. The copy talked about upgrading your cognitive performance, about gaining an edge, about peak mental states, and it worked for a segment of the market. Young professionals, tech workers, people who already identified as optimizers. But the conversion rates were mediocre. The cost to acquire a customer was too high, and the lifetime value wasn't great because the product was positioned as a performance tool, not a daily essential. So we did some deeper market research, and what we found was interesting. There was a much larger segment of the market, mostly people over 40, who were experiencing real cognitive decline. They were forgetting names, losing their keys, having trouble focusing in meetings, worrying about dementia and Alzheimer's because they'd seen parents or relatives go through it. But they weren't identifying as biohackers. They weren't trying to optimize. They were trying to maintain, to protect what they had, to not lose ground. And the biohacker positioning actually created resistance for them because it conflicted with their identity belief. And they didn't see themselves as the kind of person who takes supplements to get an edge. That felt vain or unnecessary or even a little bit like cheating. But they absolutely saw themselves as the kind of person who takes proactive steps to protect their health as they age. That was consistent with their identity. So we repositioned the entire brand. Same product, same ingredients, different belief alignment. Instead of cognitive enhancement, we talked about cognitive protection. Instead of peak performance, we talked about preserving mental sharpness. Instead of gaining an edge, we talked about maintaining independence and quality of life. We stopped trying to sell to the belief that you should always be optimizing. And we started aligning with the belief that protecting what you have is responsible and smart. Conversion rates more than doubled. Cost to acquire a customer dropped by 40%. Lifetime value went up because now the product was positioned as a long-term health essential, not a situational performance boost. Same product, different belief alignment, completely different business outcomes. And this is what I mean when I say some supplements sell themselves. They're not better products. They're better aligned with what the market already believes. Now, let's talk about a counterexample because this is important too. There are times when you can't align with existing beliefs because the beliefs don't exist yet. The market hasn't formed an opinion. They don't know enough to have a belief. CBD is a perfect example of this. Go back to 2016, 2017. Most consumers had never heard of CBD. They didn't have beliefs about it yet. The market was unaware, not just of the product, but of the entire category. In that environment, you're not aligning with beliefs. You're creating them. You're educating. You're shaping how people think about this thing from scratch. And that's expensive. It requires a lot of content, a lot of repetition, a lot of patience. You're essentially doing the work that an entire industry usually does collectively over years, but you're trying to do it at the individual brand level, and most brands can't afford that. And even if you can, it's slow. This is why being first to market isn't always an advantage in supplements. Sometimes it's better to be second or third after the market has formed beliefs, and you can just align with the winning ones. Look at what's happening right now with NAD supplements and longevity positioning. A few years ago, nobody outside of the biohacker community had heard of NAD. Now, because of all the content and conversation around longevity and health span, beliefs are starting to form. People are starting to believe that aging is something you can influence at the cellular level. They're starting to believe that certain compounds can extend not just lifespan, but health span. They're starting to believe that what worked for their parents' generation isn't the right approach anymore. Those beliefs are still forming. They're not universal yet, but they're there. And if you're selling an NAD supplement right now, you're in this interesting middle space. You still have to do some education, but you can also start to align with emerging beliefs instead of creating them from scratch. The brands that are going to win in that category in the next few years are the ones who figure out which beliefs are solidifying and get in front of that wave. Okay, so how do you actually use this? How do you figure out if you're aligned with beliefs or fighting them? Start by doing a belief audit. And this is different from normal market research. You're not asking people what they want or what their pain points are. You're trying to uncover what they already believe to be true. Here's how you do it. Go find places where your target audience is already talking. Reddit, Facebook groups, YouTube comments on health channels, Amazon reviews for competitor products, anywhere they're speaking in their own words without a marketer filtering it, and look for belief statements. These usually show up as universal declarations. Things like, I don't trust anything that isn't organic, or if it's not third-party tested, I won't even consider it, or I've tried everything and nothing works for me. Those are belief statements, and they're incredibly valuable because they tell you what's already true in their mind before they ever see your marketing. Now, take those belief statements and map them against your current positioning. Are you aligned or are you in conflict? If someone believes that natural is always better and your positioning leads with pharmaceutical-grade processing, that's conflict. If someone believes that they've tried everything and nothing works, and your positioning is just another mechanism without acknowledging that belief, that's conflict. If someone believes they need expert guidance, and your positioning assumes they're already educated, that's conflict. Every point of conflict is friction, and friction kills conversion. Now, here's the next question. Can you adjust your positioning to align, or do you need to find a different segment? Sometimes the answer is repositioning. You've got flexibility in how you talk about the product, and you can shift to align with the dominant beliefs in your market. Other times, the answer is segmentation. You realize you're actually selling to two different audiences with two different belief systems, and you need separate funnels, separate creative, maybe even separate brands. And occasionally, the answer is that you're in the wrong market entirely. Your product is fundamentally misaligned with what your target audience believes, and no amount of repositioning is going to fix it. That's rare, but it happens. And it's better to know that early than to spend 6 months and $50,000 on ads trying to force it. Let me give you some red flags that you're fighting beliefs instead of working with them. Red flag number 1, your click-through rates are good, but your conversion rates are terrible. People are interested enough to click, but something on the page is creating resistance. Often that's a belief conflict. They clicked based on one frame, and the page is presenting a different frame that conflicts with what they believe. Red flag number 2, you're getting a lot of questions that feel like objections you've already answered. If you've explained something clearly on the page and people are still asking about it, they're not confused. They're in conflict. Something you said bumped up against a belief, and now they're trying to reconcile it. Red flag number 3, your testimonials and reviews mention being skeptical before trying the product. That's a sign that your positioning might be activating skepticism, which is usually belief-based. Red flag number 4, when you look at your customer avatar and your actual customers, they don't match. You think you're selling to health optimizers, but your actual buyers are people dealing with chronic pain. That's a belief mismatch between who you think you're talking to and who's actually resonating. And red flag number 5, your product works, you've got great retention and repeat purchase rates, but you can't get people to try it in the first place. That's almost always belief. Once they experience it, the results speak for themselves. But there's a belief barrier to getting them to take the first step. If you're seeing any of these patterns, you need to do belief work, not copy tweaks, not funnel optimization, belief work. Now let's talk about when to pivot versus when to educate. If the market has strong existing beliefs and you're misaligned, pivot. Change your positioning to align with what they already believe. This is faster and cheaper, and it usually works. If the market has weak or non-existent beliefs, you have a choice. You can try to shape those beliefs through education, which is expensive and slow, but can create a strong moat if you do it well. Or you can wait until beliefs form and then align with them, which means you're not first, but you're more efficient. If the market has strong beliefs and you're aligned, double down. You're in the sweet spot. This is when you scale. And if the market's beliefs are changing, which happens during shifts in sophistication, you want to position yourself ahead of the curve. Find the early adopters of the new belief system and build with them, because they're going to pull the rest of the market along eventually. Here's what this looks like in practice for ad creative and landing pages. On the ad side, your hook should either reinforce an existing belief or introduce information that's compatible with existing beliefs. If your market believes that pharmaceutical companies are incentivized to keep people sick, you can use that. Your hook can be something like, this is the inflammation solution Big Pharma doesn't want you to know about. You're aligning with an existing belief about pharma, and you're positioning your product as the alternative. If your market believes that natural solutions take time, but are worth it, your hook shouldn't promise overnight results. That creates belief conflict. Instead, your hook should be something like the gentle, natural approach to joint relief that actually lasts. You're aligning with their belief about how natural solutions work. On your landing page, the first third of your copy should validate existing beliefs before you try to introduce anything new. If they believe gut health affects everything, start there. Talk about the gut-brain connection, the gut-skin connection, all the things they already believe. Now you've built alignment. They're nodding along. Their guard is down. Then you can introduce your unique mechanism or your specific approach, and it lands in fertile soil instead of rocky ground. But if you lead with your unique mechanism before you've validated their existing beliefs, you're asking them to accept something new before you've proven you understand what they already think is true. That creates resistance. One more thing about belief that's specific to supplements. There's this paradox in supplement buying behavior that's really important to understand. People research supplements extensively. They read reviews, they compare ingredients, they look up studies, they spend hours, sometimes weeks, in the research phase. But when they finally buy, they buy on emotion. They buy on belief. All that research was just giving them permission to act on what they already wanted to believe. This is why you see people who've researched for months and then they buy based on a single testimonial that resonates, or they buy from an influencer they trust without even reading the ingredient label. The research wasn't actually about gathering information. It was about finding validation for a belief they wanted to hold. And as a marketer, if you understand that, you can structure your entire funnel differently. You're not trying to out-educate your competitors. You're trying to validate beliefs faster and more emotionally than they do. Your content isn't primarily informational. It's primarily about belief reinforcement. Your testimonials aren't just social proof. They're belief mirrors. People see themselves and their beliefs reflected back. Your unique mechanism isn't just science, it's a belief bridge. It gives them a reason to believe what they want to believe anyway. This is why some supplements sell themselves. They're not better. They're more believable. And in the supplement space, where buying is ultimately an emotional decision dressed up as a rational one, believability is everything. So here's what I want you to do after you finish listening to this. Go look at your current positioning, your landing page, your ad creative, your unique mechanism, all of it, and ask yourself, what beliefs does this assume my market already holds? Then go look at what your market actually believes. Find their words, find their belief statements, and see if there's alignment or conflict. If there's conflict, you've got a choice to make. Pivot your positioning or find a different market. But don't keep running the same ads, hoping for different results. That's just expensive. If there's alignment, figure out how to reinforce those beliefs even more strongly, because that's your leverage point. That's what's going to get you from 3% conversions to 6% conversions using the same traffic. Belief is the force that most supplement brands ignore because it's invisible. You can't A/B test your way into belief alignment. You have to do the deeper work of understanding what your market already thinks is true. But when you get it right, everything else gets easier. Your ads work better. Your landing pages convert higher. Your cost to acquire a customer drops. Your lifetime value increases because you're attracting people who already believe in what you're selling. That's what I mean when I say some supplements sell themselves. They're aligned with belief. And belief is the most powerful force in supplement marketing, precisely because it's the one nobody's paying attention to. Thanks for listening. If this episode helped you see your marketing differently, send me a message. I'd love to hear what belief conflicts you've uncovered in your own business. And if you want help doing a belief audit or repositioning your brand to align with what your market actually believes, that's exactly what we do at Creative Thirst. You can find me at creativethirst.com. Talk soon.